Welcome everybody to Rise Up the Show. It's what is it? It's April Fools, right? April 1st. So the start of quarter two.
Wow.
Figured why not kick off quarter two with a new podcast episode. I know it's been a while, but hey, when you're running 7 clubs and over 100 PT client and trainers and clients, you stay a little busy. So figured April Fools would be a good time to kick the show off. And what better way to kick it off than my good friend Shannon Fable. If you don't know Shannon, industry expert, has been in the industry for 20 plus years, was a presenter, has presented an idea. If you've ever been to Idea World or the smaller Idea events, PT conference, you've probably seen Shannon on stage, or, whether it was teaching classes in the early Idea years or talking business in the later Idea years. And she's a fitness business consultant and she's a Florida Gator. So Shannon, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on today. Ready to kick off with you. Excited.
Thank you. Thanks for hopping on.
Of course.
So how's everything? You are in Colorado, correct?
I am. We are in that lovely season where Colorado, Mother Nature has zero idea what season it is. So today it is spring.
Welcome to Texas.
It's good.
It was,
outside at some point.
Yeah. No, we just went through 40, 50 degree temperatures, and then it was like 90 the next day, and then back to 40 or rain or something. So I think we're going through the same weather.
Yeah, I think it's starting to happen. It used to be just a Colorado thing, but now it seems like it's everywhere. But I always appreciate it. I just convinced my husband we need bigger closets because you can't put any clothes away. You've always got to have the winter gear ready and the summer gear. The bikes have got to be primed and the tires. It's all good. Keeps us on our toes.
It does. I just won't tell my girlfriend that because then she'll want a bigger closet. So we just bought a house, so she might want to expand and get a bigger closet, but I will not tell her that. So We'll keep that our secret. Well, hey, I wanted to kick things off and just kind of let's talk fitness industry, right? I'm going to get right into this thing. So, we went through COVID 2020, came back later, came back out of COVID, and the industry changed, right? There's, the stat is about 30% of trainers didn't return back to the industry, and you've had numerous studios, gyms closed down. And so we're still kind of finding our way back into what was pre-COVID normal. And so for someone like yourself, who's worked with gym owners, who's worked with online trainers, who's kind of seen the other side as they're coming out of fitness or out of COVID, what have you seen as a whole in the fitness industry since coming out of COVID back in 2020?
Gosh, I mean, it's been a wild and crazy ride. And I was actually just on a call with Scott Hobson, if you know him, and we were talking about this as well. I feel like the last few weeks, things have started to level out, and not level out by way of falsely assuming that we know what the future holds, but in finally being able to see where we've netted out, if that makes sense. So I know January, February were tumultuous. So we were all expecting this big rebound in January, and then Omicron hit. Nobody had January numbers like they wanted. February was dismal. And so everyone just kind of hunkered down and held their collective breath. And I think now that we're 6 weeks out of that, we can just look at the data. It's pretty objective now. We see it for what it is. Like you said, there are stats with how many people have come back. What are they doing? And you can really look at your own facility or your own neck of the woods, so to speak, and make your own assumptions about where you need to go from here. And I think that's a great place, because for the last 2 years, we've had no idea. We've just looked at stats and made them what we want them to be because nobody knew. There's nothing to compare it to. So I think people feel like they have solid footing, because even if it's not great, right, that you've got to earn some people back, that you've got to maybe make some changes to your operations and to your offerings or your products and your services, at least you know where you're starting. And I think for everyone, that just gives you a collective sigh of relief. I know for myself as a consultant, the last few weeks have been full of opportunity, where companies are starting to look up and go, okay, I need to earmark this amount of resource, human resource, financial resource to this project, but they're not even projects now. They're like long-term strategies, long-term innovation. And I think that gives me hope for the future, if that answers your question, which if you would have asked me in February, I did not have much hope. I was like, how are we going to come out of this? But I feel like everyone's kind of level set, like I said, and approaching it from a pragmatic place, which is good to see. So it's good.
What so in that, right? So we came, obviously January. I've always felt like Januaries haven't been Januaries of old for before COVID. Like there was always and then February was always that month, that first or second week in February, where you saw an uptick in new active members, new PT clients. You were able to make up some lost revenue from January and February. But to your point, this year, we didn't really see that, right? There was another variant out there. And then March, at least for Texas Family Fitness, where I work, we definitely saw an uptick both in volume of new members signing up and in PT clients. But do you think that's going to, is this a roller coaster, right? Is this going to be the new thing every time a variant is out there? Are we going to see this little wave start to happen where every 6 weeks, the business is going to look very different? And how can I, as a gym owner, CEO, executive, how do I plan for that?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I have high hopes that it won't be, because I think we're all past the point of taking drastic measures because of the variants. I think people are back to living normally. I'm using air quotes, but I believe we can't rest on our laurels. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Gym owners can't go, okay, it's done. We're not going to see these roller coasters. I think what you mentioned is really interesting. We had been seeing, I agree with you, we'd been seeing the statistics in January change over the years. But again, I think that our industry is very good at painting the picture of stats in whatever way we want to see them, allowing the stats to relate to our narrative, right? Oh, it was just this January because of this thing, or the weather was significantly bad, instead of looking at over time and going, oh my gosh, we haven't seen a giant January in a really long time. What does that mean? And what do? Do we keep doubling down on January, or do we start shifting our business plan to meet the needs of this? I think fitness was evolving before Omicron. We just ignored it, right?
Yeah.
The consumer was changing, and you've heard it all over the place. I think we finally can all agree that something drastic needs to change, or we have to do something drastic to meet the needs of the untapped market potential for fitness and wellness. And it's not well served by the business plans that we have from the past. So I come back to your question. Yes, there's probably going to be variance every 6 weeks. I think we just have to look at stats and look at the trends, micro trends, where we are, watch them, make sure that we're measuring the right KPIs and adjusting our businesses and doing little experiments to see what's going to work, versus trying to, make these big sweeping assessments about what's going to happen in the future, because I just don't know. And I know you and I have talked about this before. Innovation, it's a newer word, right? I don't know that we ever used it before Omicron, but it's always been there. And I think people have a false definition of what innovation is. It's not about like making the newest iPhone, right? And people don't even understand what it actually is. Like, in order for someone to make the iPhone, they were doing experiments 10 years ago that led to the iPhone. It's kind of like when we look at Zumba, we're like, oh my gosh, it was an overnight success. It's like, oh, for 10 years, there were little experiments along the way, and then it was a groundswell of a final thing. So innovation is, it exists in 3 different buckets. We do have that innovation that keeps you relevant 10 years in the future, but that starts today, so that in 10 years, Texas Family Fit is still doing $1 million in PT. You've got to start experimenting now to be relevant in 10 years. Some of those experiments will work, some of them will fail, and we have to be okay with failure. Then at the opposite end of innovation are iterations. And these are those little tweaks that we need to be making that we've often looked at as the big sweeping innovation, right? We changed the new member onboarding process and we think we deserve a medal. And it's like, those are just the tiny things you need to continue doing daily, reevaluating your business to stay relevant now. Then the interesting thing in the middle that I think has the biggest potential for the industry The second box of innovation is elimination. What are the things that no longer serve us, even though a lot of people still might do it? What is not serving us as an industry, as an organization? And I don't know that those are sweeping things that the entire industry has to do, but every club or trainer needs to look at their book of business and go, okay, I know I've always done it this way, or I know I've always offered this thing, or I know I've always had this service. What is it actually netting me? And what is it preventing me from doing? Because the only way to get that leapfrog innovation is to eliminate some things here and there. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but I believe the biggest thing we have to do to deal with all these waves that are going to come, whether it's from COVID or anything else, just the natural tendency of our clients, is we have to invest in innovation. And I don't mean just money investment. I mean energy investment, brain investment, human resource investment. And we have to commit to it, not just treat it as this like experimental science lab over here that we hope is all going to work out, but fully integrate it cross-departmentally into our organizations. It's going to be the game changer for the industry.
So 2 questions really. One is, you mentioned forward, right? 10 years down the road now. I think what happened with COVID is it sped a lot of that up, where that 10 years happened now. And it's a volatile industry where a lot of people weren't ready for it, right? You mentioned digital and hybrid, and being this hybrid training online in the studio. And some people weren't ready for it, where they should, I think I've heard you mention, like, what you should have been planning to go online now, not, it sped it up because of COVID, and all of a sudden you're an online trainer. Well, but the platform and what the business needed to be successful online should have been done 10 years prior, and then it caught everybody off guard. And then that led to trainers going out of business, trainers quitting the industry. So there's been this exodus of PTs and gyms, and still leaves this untapped market, right? You mentioned the untapped market. Do you feel like since COVID, have we been able to reach that market, or is that market, are we still marketing to the same people pre-COVID?
I think we want to believe that we're reaching that market, and we're not. And there's so many things I want to say. Let me go. The digital thing is the best example of where, and it's not just the fitness industry. So I don't want to paint us with a bad brush. I think this is every industry, right?
Yeah, of course.
Look at Kodak, Blockbuster, et cetera. They've always been held up as, what happens when you ignore innovation. Digital has been around for a while, right? I remember at any time, Wexer and Wellbeats, that was digital then, right? I mean, there was Beachbody too. So we had to have an answer to Beachbody. What did most fitness clubs and trainers do when Beachbody became popular? Like, we thought of all the reasons why it shouldn't be working, all the reasons why what we are doing is better, all the reasons why you need to be in person and you shouldn't trust someone that doesn't have personal training certification. Like, we just ignored it. We're like, no, that's never going to replace what we do. Then in comes Wexer and Wellbeats, and everyone's like, no one's ever going to get together and do workouts. No, again, we just like ignored it. So instead of looking at it and getting really curious and going, okay, well, what can we learn from Beachbody? What are they doing that we're not doing? Not that we need to, innovation isn't about recreating what other people are doing, but it's about learning the lessons, right? There was a lot to be learned from Beachbody. When did that start? I mean, that was way more than a decade ago that was popular. So, if the fitness industry would stop and go, yes, COVID sped things up, and you had every opportunity to be prepared for this digital evolution. It was happening before you ever gave it credence. But you mentioned something else, the experiment or the things that we needed to be doing to prepare for digital wasn't necessarily jumping into digital, but it was cleaning up our house. So even things like technology stacks, like technology in the fitness industry is still so archaic compared to any other industry, but we never stopped to clean. I always use that analogy. Like, we never stopped to do the spring cleaning because switching to a new member management software sounds like a total pain in the ass. Switching to a new way to track new member orientations sounds like death to everyone, right? So, it's not just about like, what's the new programming that's going to attract someone new, or do we go digital or do we not? It's even things like addressing our lack of innovation in technology stacking inside of the clubs. And our systems have a lot of friction in them, both like our face-to-face systems and our back-end systems. So I'll put that off to the side to get back to your question. I think we think that we're attracting the 85% because we're like, oh, now we have digital. That's what the 85% need. They need a way to get us without, being live. They need to try us before coming in. They need to build confidence and competence, and then they'll come in. And I think that is a great step. We deserve big applause if we keep going down that route, because I do believe that's a game changer for the 85%. They loved being a little black square in their basement and watching 3 times before they tried it. They loved having shorter workouts versus longer workouts. There are a lot of programmatic things that I hope will continue to attract the 85%. But our business model isn't friendly to the 85%. Just in general, there's the 85%, and then there's the 85% that are our traditional clients that we're still building for, which are the 45 plus market. And then there's the 85% that's younger than 45 that wants something completely different, sold in a different way. And I feel like we're kind of stuck in the middle, because to be relevant to that 45 plus market, they're used to the big boxes where you join and you get your membership and you have your key fob and you come in and you swipe it at the front desk and you've got all the amenities under one roof. And then we've got the boutiques on the other end that cater to the millennial because they like the smaller, more intimate feel. But then that business model doesn't attract the younger people because they don't want to commit to a studio. They want lots of different things. So this is where the class pass is super helpful. I think this industry needs a lot of shaking up, not just in the programming, but also in our business structure. And I think some clubs are leaning into it, right? How can our systems be, or our services be a la carte? And the name of the game is customization. Everyone wants to be able to customize what they want, because that's what every other industry has allowed us to do, right? We can customize it. Sometimes we can go into the restaurant. Sometimes we can do curbside pickup. Sometimes it can be delivered to us. Sometimes they do the delivery. Sometimes a third party does the delivery. We can eat from the expensive menu or the less expensive menu. Like, we have to take some lessons from other industries to really be omni-channel, customizable, let it be exactly right, and not fear all of the other options. I think that's the biggest point that I've been trying to make to organizations and individuals, is like, the more that we just like hunker down and kind of try to protect our turf, instead of accepting the fact that I may belong to an Anytime, I may still have a Peloton tread in my basement and a membership there, as well as an Apple Fitness membership, and still belong to an F45 and a yoga pod. And that's okay. It's okay. How can I fit in this, like, and I'm not the 85%, obviously, but that's a start to opening up being more of an open ecosystem and allowing people to plug in, because the 85% may not want your full service $129 a month membership, right? Because they don't see value in it yet. The other thing we have to do to attract 85% is we need to start. I know that we've always known that fitness isn't the only thing, but we still lead with it. And fitness is the scariest part of changing your health and wellness, or taking charge of it. It is the scariest part. Working with a trainer, even though the 85% may believe that that is a good idea, there are a lot of steps that they feel like they have to go through before they have permission to unlock that level of Guitar Hero, right? Like, that feels really scary. And nutrition's one of them. Behavior change and health coaching is another one of them. But we can't have all these disparate services inside the facility, because then I've got to choose. Like, do I do the nutrition first and then do the fitness? Or do I do the fitness and then do that? And if I'm doing fitness and that, I've got to like book an hour with an RD, and I've got to book an hour with a personal trainer, and I've got to book an hour with a massage therapist, and we don't have all this time. Like, how do we be more like with the health? Not that we've done well in the US with healthcare, but it's the patient-centered approach of what does the patient need? And then we're a team that helps the patient, and they pay for the team versus the disparate services. I think that's the biggest opportunity for us to reach not just the 85%, but do a better job at servicing the people that are already, using our services. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. I think it just opens such a huge door. Obviously, the opportunity's there, right? How do we? Because you got mental health, you've got wellness, you've got nutrition, you've got behavioral change, stress management, and so how do you? I think that's the kind of the daunting question is how do you encompass all that? Because you're not going to find it at one facility. There's just no way. Those are experts in multiple different facilities or different fields. But how do I, as a corporate or a big box or a studio, where do I start piecing those things together so that my client comes in, and if I know my client's having some mental health challenges or maybe he's having some stress challenges, here's our partner. Like, where would you start in all that?
That's a great question. And I don't know. But that's what we all need to be experimenting with, because what I do know is you just having a referral partner to refer me out to. That's what we've always been doing, right?
Yep.
And that doesn't work, because if I have a relationship with you, there are multiple reasons why it doesn't work. There's friction in that. I've got to now go establish another relationship with another person and pay another organization to get this other thing that I need. Plus, let's be honest, the personal trainer, I trust that personal trainers know when they should be referring out, and I trust that they want to. But when their whole livelihood is based on getting more clients or more hours with that client or keeping that client, I understand. Like, you're like, oh, well, if they're spending $100 over there and that's what they really need, like, then what happens to me? So that's why I go back to, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But I do think this is where I think health coaching is part of the answer inside the health club, and really understanding what health coaching is. So health coaching is not a lesser than personal trainer. It's not a scaled down nutritionist. It's not, right? And I think a lot of fitness professionals have this false assumption that, like, as a health coach, I don't go far enough in to be able to help people with exercise, and I don't go far enough in to help people with nutrition.
Yeah.
But a health coach understands the most important thing, which is behavior change.
Yep.
And how to identify, okay, what is the MVP? What is the minimal viable product that I can put in front of this client where they're going to get these micro wins daily to build their self-efficacy so that they will start taking advantage of all of these other things that we do. And they don't have any skin in the game, right? Because if I'm a personal trainer and I sit down with you, I've got skin in the game. I want you to want fitness, even if that's not the best place for you to start. And we're all smart enough to know that for some people, like, walking around the block is better than, they might not be ready for us, even if we have a lot to provide. So I think health coaching is a good unlock. And the name is escaping me, but there is a gym owner in Maine. Is it Maine? I'll come back to you and give you the name. And I sat in his lecture at URSA this past year, and I was blown away. He gets it. The health coaches are step one. They don't go to a comp session with a trainer right off the bat. They go to a health coach, and the health coach is incentivized on following that person for 90 days and helping them become competent inside the facility and piecing the team together that can help that individual meet their health and wellness goals. He's just completely changed the model, where it isn't based on, I want you to use my gym for fitness. I want you to use my gym for health. And if I'm really going to say that's what I'm going to do, then I need to put you with a health coach first that understands the entire breadth of what you need and helps point you in the right direction with the right resources, whether they're from us or from somebody else. So I think that's the best place for a lot of gyms to begin, is truly understanding the health coach and not letting that just be this, like, it actually should be step one. And trying to feed all these pieces together from there.
It's I hear that, and I think, my gym, right, the way I work at, it's an odd, it has a challenge, because you're talking now clients and revenue, and where does that look like? Because it's not sexy, right? It's not. And so where does a gym kind of sit back and look at their business from that 30,000 foot level and be like, you know what, this isn't sexy because it's not fitness and it's not personal training and it's not fat loss and I want to look better naked, or this summer it's health coaching. And for some, it's an awkward, it's a maybe a not a comfortable conversation for the consumer. Where does a gym owner have to be okay with saying, look, I know this is what's in the best interest of our members and our clients, and this is the direction we're going to go in, and then not fall back into the traditional fitness business the way it is now?
Well, therein lies the issue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because we're so busy working in our business that we don't have the resource and the time or the energy to work on our business. And innovation exists in this working on your business thing. And it's having dedicated teams that are hardwired differently. They're not the most creative people, they're the most curious people. And they have an appetite for being wrong as much as they have an appetite for being right. And that's the problem, because fitness has served our orgs forever. Personal trainers make good money, fitness centers have made good money, but why did we totally just blow up during COVID? Because we didn't get curious about, is there any other way to help people get to a healthier place than showing up at a gym and exercising? And we are smart enough to know that there is. We've made this a sexy thing, but here's the reality: is the conversation is changing. It's just our generation that still gets the whole beach body, not beach body, but the get beach body ready conversation and the before and after pictures. But we're very nostalgic. That works. It worked. Yes, it worked at that time, in that way, in this infrastructure. Yep. And what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So what we need to do right now is experiment. So you say, where does somebody start? A, setting aside time to work on the business versus in the business. B, putting resource around working on the business, not in the business. And not that you take this team and you put them off in a corner so they're not tainted by the fortress. They need to be informed by the fortress. That is the day-to-day business. They need to be exposed to it, informed by it, but they also need to be out in other industries, looking at what's going on and crafting experiments. So C is start experimenting. So what does that experiment look like? Maybe you keep doing the same thing. And I think we've actually talked about this. Maybe you keep doing the same thing with 75% of your new members. You sell the gym membership the same way you did. You sign them up with your complimentary session with a personal trainer. Personal trainer runs the same play, and you see what that nets you. And maybe you take 25% of them and you put it through this different process and see what happens. But we also have to change our KPIs, because you can't measure this experiment by that. It's not just dollars and cents. So, can we change our KPIs to look at health outcomes, longevity? What's the lifetime membership value? It's a long-term experiment. It's not, you're not going to find, and that's the thing, we give up way too quickly. We try to run a new program for 6 weeks and it doesn't make the same money as the before and after contest that we've always run. And we're like, screw it, we need the money now. That is why we got so screwed during COVID. We don't play the long game. We play the short game. And if you play the short game, you are always going to go back to what you know. And what we know is before and after pictures, comp sessions, and teach our trainers how to overcome objections. And that is going to get you money. It's never going to show you that it's not going to work. But innovation is about experimenting and seeing if there are new ways to shift what we're doing.
You also mentioned innovation is also about eliminating things, right? And so I think I wanted to circle back to this, because right now, what do you, with the gyms you've consulted with and the companies you've worked with, what are some things that you feel like can be eliminated, but we're just doing it because we've been doing it? Yeah. So what would you eliminate?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's different for every gym. The adductor and abductor machines would be first on my list, but that's a whole nother conversation. We used to call them the yes/no machines in college. Is that horrible? I just had this memory. It used to be
called good girl, good guy, bad guy. I don't know. They all have nicknames.
Yeah. I was having PTSD from being in the locker room. Gosh, what would I eliminate? The first thing would be independent contractors, and I know that's not a popular, I know you guys don't do it, but a lot of gyms still do rely heavily on independent contractors. That would be the first thing I would take a look at potentially eliminating, and not eliminating those people, but changing the way that I interact and the way that I employ my staff. The second thing that I would eliminate would be this gross division, like dividing line between group fitness and personal training.
100%.
And it's not even just, ooh, let them work together. It's that, and I have been saying this for 10 years, I don't believe there's that much, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion with people listening to your show. Group fitness instructors and personal trainers are doing the same thing in very different ways. And I think that our industry needs less of, well, group fitness is free and a lesser than product. And personal trainers, these are the smart ones that are actually in it for business. I think there needs to be this different stratification of pool deck supervisors, right? And then you've got the people that run the play that someone else made up. And then you've got the people that customize it. Because that's more of where consumers kind of self-identify. They don't self-identify as group fitness or personal training. They just self-identify as, am I an AirPod member? Do I want someone to loosely be looking after me to make sure I don't die or drown? Do I want someone to meet my experience, but I can color outside the lines? Or do I really need customization? And as long as we continue to believe that the best product inside of a gym, like you're not going to get as much if you just show up and use our equipment. If you want a little bit more, go to group fitness. But if you really want to see your health change, you need to see a personal trainer. We screwed ourselves. So the number one thing I think people need to eliminate is that thought process, because it's just not true. It's not true. Every consumer is very, very different, right? What they need and what they need from is different. So I believe in the value of a personal trainer. I very much believe in the value of group fitness. I also believe in the value of an AirPod member.
Yeah.
They all just need different things. So I know that's not really, that was kind of a cop out. But it's that mindset that we have to eliminate first.
No, I've been doing this, 17 years, and it's always been that divide between Group X and PT. And for whatever reason, my client goes to yoga class, they like yoga class more than one-on-one training. So they can't. So from a scarcity mindset, absolutely. I'm going to talk not bad, but I'm going to not add as much value to Group X for the fear of my quitting training and just going over to Group X. Right. And yet who has the most followers and I mean, I saw it when we grand opened our new Texas Family Fitness. We had Group X instructors that were there when it was 24 come back, and all of a sudden 20, 30 people joined the club. And it's like, man, there's my best client or my best trainers were Group X instructors.
Of course.
And so I think I'm right there with you, but then how do you start with that? Like, where do you start with, like, cause that's always like, if you can figure that out, man, your gym would be going bananas with just that relationship between the two departments.
Right. And again, I'm saying, I'm not even looking at these two things as departments. I feel like you hire fitness professionals and they all have different roles inside of the gym. And they're all considered. It goes back to my health coach thing.
Yeah.
If your entry point into a gym is with a health coach who doesn't have that same scarcity mindset, because their job is to find the best path for the person that's sitting in front of them. Right. And if I come into a gym and I'm never going to go to the comp session because I don't need a personal trainer, I am one. But I'd entertain sitting down with a health coach if their job was to map out my journey and find the resources inside the gym that can amplify my experience. That is such a different pitch for showing up to another appointment. And if they're not trying to sell me health coaching appointments, but they're on staff and they are paid for by the gym, like that's the thing. Like they don't have a horse in the race. So now they can be that agnostic Sherpa that says, okay, Shannon, let's look at you both from a psychographic, demographic. What do you need physiologically? Oh, you're pretty self-sufficient on the equipment. Great. Let's put you in that. But, oh, you want nutrition support. Awesome. We've got, this XYZ. Now I can put your plan together, but it's never going to happen if and I know, again, super unpopular, never going to happen if first step after gym membership, if you are living and dying by that person getting into the comp session because you need the ancillary revenue from personal training, you will never be able to crack this nut. You've got to experiment with some other entry points on that member journey.
I mean, it goes back to what we were just talking about. So maybe run 75% of the member base through the traditional model. And then the other, 25%, they go through, and their first appointment is not with an orientation, but with a health coach. I think the challenge you run into is there's the ROI that the gym's going to want is not going to be there because it's not.
Yeah, and that goes back to talking about elimination. Like,
yeah,
you need to change your KPIs. Like, if you are going to look at this new experiment and go, oh, but that didn't net me, whatever, my goal back in the 90s, I think when I started, and I was a group fitness instructor, that a personal training director was like, you put on a collared shirt, you're going to be a PT because you have so many people in your classes. Like, that was the heyday of group fitness, 100 people in the class, right? So like my goal was $10,000 a month. If that's still going to be your KPI and you're like, oh, well, my PT department didn't get this much money this month, so never mind, we're going back to this, then you're right, you've got to play the long game. So what is the KPI we're looking at? And I mean, gosh, there's so many things. The other thing is, like, why do we still just believe that here's how much they're paying for the membership, and then our real nut is ancillary revenue? Let's be real. That's where the squeeze is. That's where you can make all of your dividends. Change that. What if the gym was a place where you walked in and you're like, okay, I am an earbud member. This is how much I pay. I am a member that has access to these things. And I know some clubs are experimenting with this. This makes so much more sense. Like, give me the gym membership that I want and start making your KPIs on use that health coach to funnel people in to the right place, because you're actually wasting your time. If I'm a new member and the first thing you try to do is you have a personal trainer spending their energy and their time trying to get me into a new member orientation, I get why you're doing it, because you're going to convert X number of people every time you do that. So that's always been your play. But if you get me in front of someone else, or just abort, exit stage left, and let me just pay this membership, and you can run volume with earbud members and then actually focus, because it's not just ROI. We all look at it as ROI. It's ROEI too. I actually want to put my personal trainers in a place to get in front of the right people to make money. The other thing, and I know you and I have talked about this before too, most personal trainers really suck at sales, and it's not their fault. Stop trying to teach them how to sell. They did not get into this business to sell things. They want to teach people how to lift weights, how to get fit. They want to motivate them. I think the other thing you can experiment with is, who does the sales of personal training? I firmly believe it should not be in the hands of a personal trainer. The end. That can be in the hands of a health coach or a salesperson. I mean, there's so many things that I would suggest trying, but you have to experiment with it all, and you have to be okay with changing the KPIs that you're looking at. Like, you're not comparing apples to apples if you completely change your system. So you can't compare ancillary revenue and go, oh, the health coach thing didn't work because it didn't get me this much money. Well, where could you get other money? Or if I put personal trainers on a staffing model versus a commission model, oh, but then I'm losing all this ancillary revenue. I get it. Like, we have to change the way, and that's why I say I don't have all the answers, but this is why you need that group to be working on it and figure it out. This is why we haven't done it yet, because we just go back to the old way because it seems way too complicated to change the entire system.
So do you think, here we are, moving into 2022, right? And we went through COVID, we figured out, we have, digital and technology and online training. 2022, kind of the future of what is future fitness really? What do you think? What are you seeing? And what do you think as we move into these, next 3, 4, 5 years? How is the industry evolving, or how is it going to have to evolve to stay ahead of whatever it comes next, or just to stay relevant with all these other technology competitors that are pulling people maybe out of the gym and at staying at home, or what's that look like?
Yeah, well, you just kind of alluded to it. It's
Yeah.
they're not pulling them out of the gym. They're just asking you to change how you interact with them inside the gym. I think it becomes an open marketplace, and gyms have to figure out how to play in an open marketplace instead of trying to take the person and get them into a gym and ignore the fact that fitness happens in a lot of other places besides inside your four walls. Because the consumer has changed. Many of us do not go wake up and drive somewhere at 8 o'clock, take a lunch break, and leave at 5. That is gone. And if you ever think that your peak hours are coming back and people are going to get back to their normal routines, like, this is the new normal. The new normal is maybe some people are working in offices, but even those that have gone back to offices, employers are having to let them have flexible work schedules. So like this, the concept of the gym is antiquated. Does that make sense? Like, I know when I started in the fitness industry, it was you showed up there at 5:30, you did your thing, you had your locker that you paid every year, you put your padlock on it, you had all your toiletries, you got dressed for the gym or got dressed for work there, you went to work, got a grocery store on the way home and go home.
Oh yeah.
Not happening anymore.
Yeah.
This isn't, and maybe it can still be the third place, but people also found other third places during the pandemic. Fitness and community don't have to be inextricably linked. For some people it is, for other people it's somewhere else. Like, we just have to open our mind to believe that there is a different way for the gym to be successful without going back to what it used to be, which is everything happens, you get all your fitness needs in these four walls. So maybe hybridization is for you, where your gym offers digital, or is it that your trainers embrace that their clients may be doing digital some other way and they work that into how they work with clients instead of going, oh, you don't need your Peloton membership, just don't tell me to give it up. Teach me how to work within your system with that as part of it. I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to have to change is like the client is in charge. They're at the center of the ecosystem and they all have very unique needs and very unique ways that they are going to put their health and wellness plan together. And we cannot dictate it. We are just in their orbit now. So the more ways that we can be flexible and allow them to craft that customized experience and us not fear that, but embrace it, that's going to be the gym or the professional, the organization that's successful. And again, I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that I don't think we're ever going back to the place where we're the primary way that people want fitness is to show up at a gym 5 times a week. I mean, here's the other crazy thing, and you know this stat. Before COVID, we've been trying to change the gym stat that says, on average, even your best users come to the gym 2 to 3 days a week. It hasn't changed in like 25 years. And in every strategy meeting I've ever been in a gym, they're like, how do we get that number up? How do we get that number up? How do we get that number up? That should not be a leading question in any strategy meeting in a gym. It should be, how can we have more touch points with our members? But in order to have more touch points, you're going to have to be able to touch them when they are not inside your gym. Because I don't think, I'm an avid gym user. And maybe I go to the gym 2 days a week now because I'm outside and I'm in my basement. And some days I go to yoga and some days I go to F45 and some days I just want the step mill. And I think I'm more of your and you go back to the 85% that you asked about before. That's sustainable for most people. Asking someone to figure out how to find a routine where they can get to the gym 5 days a week, it's just not real life these days. No. So if you want to attract the 85%, that's also why you need, it's not just for, people like me that are super users, but I just think gone are the days that the question we're trying to answer is how to get them in the gym more. It's how do we touch them outside of the gym?
Yeah. And I think, and even, when I was training, right. And this was, we call it 12 years ago. It was just, that 3-4 times a gym, 4 times a week in the gym was never even there back then. And and so, and even now, like I look at what we're doing per average on clients, and we're training our clients about 1.5 times a week, but then it's solving for what are they doing for exercise when they're not in the gym. And I think that's the conversation, that and I 100% agree with you. How do we solve for that so that those omni-channel touch points are there, because it's not, the gym is not the third place anymore. Like it used to be home, work, gym. Well, now that third place embodies so many other things that how can we fit gym as part of that third place, not as the third place? And I think that's where, for me, from what I'm seeing, I think as you start evolving, and that you talk about PTs, I think that's where the PT starts to understand there's other ways I can make revenue, or other ways I can touch my clients without having to see them. But it takes that open mind.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about this before. Back in the 90s, when I started training, even early 2000s, our USP as trainers were people lacked information and access to information about exercise. They needed us.
Yep.
So my client needed me 3 days a week. They didn't know what the hell to do inside of a gym if they weren't with me. Like, and the appetite for learning, like they didn't care. They just wanted to be led around. And it was also a symbol to some degree of, having made it. I can afford a trainer and I see her 3 days a week. Fast forward, and you guys, I say this to trainers all the time. If you are still like hanging your hat on the fact that you have all of the knowledge of fitness and that is why people are coming to you, you're just one foot in the grave, because fitness information is ubiquitous. It's a squat's a squat's a squat, and I can learn how to do it. Don't hate on the people that are showing people how to squat on Instagram. Like, it's there. Nobody needs to come see you to learn how to do an exercise anymore, right? So you've got to really think about what are people coming to you for. It could be customizing their workout plan to keep them safe and to get them to their goals. A lot of times it's just the behavior change, right? They need someone to, and it's not just holding them accountable and motivating them, but empowering them to be able to do it on their own, right? They're looking to you to be a coach, and the best coaches, like Tiger Woods doesn't outgrow his coach. The coach, he can play his sport by himself, but he still finds value in the coach relationship. So it's changing like what you think your role is in their life, A, and then B, like you said, embracing the fact that a lot of people today just need you 1 day a week. Some of them only need you 1 day a month to give them a new plan, new exercises, check in, update, recustomize. Then what can we do with digital to still touch base with them? Because they actually need, where we would do better is if we had more frequent interactions that were less reliant on IRL, right? So if I saw you 1 day a month, but there was something, and not me on my cell phone, that's just horrible. But if there was something, some way that I could touch you every day automatically and be that little gnat in your ear reminding you or having you check in, or so there's a mix of AI and the human element. There's a mix of digital and IRL, but it has to start with a mindset shift of abundance versus scarcity. We do not hold the answers, right? That's where motivational interviewing comes from, right? You are the expert on yourself. I'm just here to unlock that. We need more trainers that embrace that and understand it, and more facilities that support that versus trying to like get them 3 days a week. EFT, never gonna, right? It's just, there's so much of a mindset shift that has to happen, but it requires that experimentation to see what's going to work.
Well, I think it also requires some of these certifying organizations to change their model. I know I think ACE has a health coach certification, but I think it requires more of where, I think there's got to be this blend of CPT and health coach together from a certified, or do you think it's always going to be?
I don't know. Okay. And here's what I used to believe that. So that's why I'm going to say something about it. I don't believe that every PT is hardwired to be a health coach.
Okay.
Because most personal trainers get into it because they like lifting weights. Like most of what we do is teach people how to lift weights, do functional exercise, take care of their structure. A health coach is a unique unicorn that is knowledgeable about fitness, knowledgeable about nutrition, knowledgeable about the psychology behind it all, and truly understands, and like they get giddy about doing what I just said, like respecting that you are the expert and respecting that you have all the answers inside and pulling that out of you. They're more of a, I'm not going to say therapist because I don't want anyone to jump down my throat, but it's more from a therapy perspective than a practical perspective. And not to say that a lot of personal trainers might not decide that they love that more or that that's of interest. But I don't think it's a natural progression. I think a lot of personal trainers look at it as a regression,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Yeah.
fitness light. And it's like, okay, well, that's where the mindset shift has to change, is like, fitness is, newsflash, fitness is only one component of health and wellness. It's a little tiny eensy weensy part. And like, you can't out exercise a bad diet. And you also need to figure out stress, and you need to figure out sleep, and you need to figure out all these other things. And that's where a health coach just has a much broader, it's not a broader skill set where they know all of the things, but it's lovely that they don't. What their real thing is the behavior change and the motivational interviewing piece, so that we can do what we need to reach the 85%, which is empower them in health and wellness, not shackle them to a personal trainer that has all the answers. That's the real switch that has to change.
It's the $1 million question, right? When do we, at what point does the industry, and obviously you've got pockets of it, right? But at what point do the big boxes, where they see more of the volume of people signing up, start moving in that direction and move away from that traditional model?
They're going to have a harder time.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're giant entities. This is why you see some really unique things happening with mom and pop facilities. The gym that I was talking about is I think they have 3. I could be totally lying, but it's a small organization. This is why you see boutiques, studios doing really well. I mean, it's inevitable. The smaller you are, well, I shouldn't say it's inevitable. There are pluses and minuses to being small. You have less resource, but it's way easier to experiment and fail really quickly and then turn around. Bigger organizations are going to have a tougher time because they have bigger expectations. And to get something like that big shift through an entire organization, that's hard. It's really hard. And I don't think that they don't want to. Like, I'm never going to look down my nose at larger organizations. They just have a harder thing than maybe you do with, I know you have 7 out of 13 clubs. Like, even that is a really tough job to change. But yeah, the industry as a whole just needs to really be looking at it together. And I mean, I put some of the pressure on some of the organizations that provide education. Shake it up. Like, I know a lot of these conferences, they have to rely on the tried and true legacy educators because they're a draw and people want to see them. But they've got to shift their business. It's chicken and egg, right? They've got to shift their business model too, so we can be exposed to new ideas that challenge what we think. Because we're just a big collective think tank that we show up and pat each other on the back for surviving. And we recycle the same ideas and look to the same people for the new ideas. And I just think it's time that they need to change their business model to help it flow down.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like we can go and have this conversation for hours, but I want to respect your time. So let us know, for everyone watching, anyone listening. I know you got a Facebook group. I know you've got some consulting that you do, fitness business consulting. Where can someone get a hold of you, get more information?
Yeah, great question. So my website is shannonfable.com. Best place to find me, email me, link off to all my socials. And then the group I run is actually sponsored by ACE. It's not an ACE, like you don't have to be ACE certified to join, but it is more group fitness. So it's about 8,000 group fitness instructors, which is a super fun place to show up and just chat. We do daily information, education, inspiration. But yeah, shannonfable.com if you want to find me personally. And on social media, I'm sfable. I'm the only one out there, unless someone's tried to clone me.
Well, look, there's if you need help with sales, if you need help with time management and productivity, reach out to her. We didn't get a chance to touch on that. Like I said, we'd go on for hours, but reach out to Shannon. She has some great insight around sales, time management, time productivity. Shannon, thank you for coming on the show. It was nice having you. It was good seeing you again, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you later, guys.